Hey everyone, a couple of really great opportunities through Alberta Beef Producers. First, our Young Creators Contest. This is a new contest. It's an opportunity for those aged 23 and under to showcase their creativity, passion, and knowledge of the beef industry. Some really great prizes, swag, cash, and for those 19 to 23, the opportunity of a lifetime to join us along with political representatives and beef producers at the upcoming Alberta Beef Industry Stampede Summit. And next we have our Environmental Stewardship Award. Nominations are open now. Please help us celebrate somebody you know who's a beef producer, who's passionate about the environment. And let's get that story out there to a broader audience as well. This is a really great opportunity. Head to abpdaily.com. You can just type in the search bar either Young Creators or Environmental Stewardship Award. That's abpdaily.com.
Maybe once you pull them out from the breeding herd, getting them a little bit of extra condition for winter is just fine. But then we really want them in tip-top, perfect body condition score to head into that breeding season.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Bovine podcast. I'm your host, Kara Mastel, and as always, I'm happy you're here. As we come out of several consecutive drought years, I don't have to tell you guys that, and dive into the thick of bull sale season, some producers might be considering rebuilding their herds. Or perhaps they're simply wondering, how do you find a balanced herd bull? There are many factors we're considering here, and to help us navigate some of these questions and considerations, we have Dr. Matejka of Veterinarian Agri Health Services joining us today. Carling was raised on a 100-year-old red and black Angus seed stock operation just outside of Ponoka, Alberta. From a young age, her work with animals ignited a passion that shaped her career aspirations. Driven by a desire to advocate for farmers and the cattle they care for, she dedicated herself to becoming a veterinarian. Carling worked in a mixed animal practice for 6 years, but her love for cattle led her to transition to VAHS. Here, she leverages her knowledge and passion to make a meaningful impact on the health and sustainability of the Canadian beef industry. Carling is deeply committed to fostering the next generation of agricultural leaders, volunteering with 4-H, junior livestock programs, and mentoring veterinary students. In 2020, she was chosen by the Canadian Agriculture Minister to join the inaugural Canadian Agriculture Youth Council, where she contributed insights on policies and programs impacting the agriculture and agri-food sectors. Additionally, in 2022, she was selected as a Canadian Cattle Young Leader, gaining valuable experience within the cattle industry. In 2023, she received the Red Schellenberg Next Generation Legacy Award. Carling, thanks for joining me here today. How's it going?
Oh, it's very good. We're just waiting for the weather to warm up here. Excited for the upcoming forecast.
Absolutely. And thanks for joining us on the Bovine today. We're excited to have you as a guest.
I'm excited to be here.
So we're going to dive a bit into, we're in bull season where, you're starting to see all the sales coming up and you're starting to make your selections for the year. Do you want to start by talking about the difference between or can you explain the difference between optimization and maximization in the context of cattle breeding?
Yeah, definitely. So they're pretty simple terms. Maximization focuses on increasing one single trait within your herd, whereas optimization is going to balance multiple of those traits to achieve a more sustainable and efficient herd overall.
So why is it important to keep mature cow body weight in check when selecting a herd bull?
Good question. So I think it's pretty simple. When we're looking at mature cow body weight, this is going to mean it's a larger cow. And what do larger cows need? More feed. So this is, if you're selecting for a larger frame, this is going to reduce your overall herd efficiency and increase your feed costs. What we've really seen over the last decade is that mature weights have increased by about 150 pounds. And well, let's be honest, that feed has to come from somewhere. So that is going to increase your overall cost into that cow. So when we're trying to select bulls, we kind of want to look for a more moderate, mature weight EPD when we're looking to retain females in the herd.
So let's take a quick step back here. EPDs, expected progeny differences. Do you want to talk about what they are, just to take a quick step back?
Yeah, I should have explained that. So expected progeny differences help to predict how a bull's offspring will perform in specific traits, and this is based on their parents as well as their sires and dam's progeny. So it gives us a little bit of a better idea of what to expect when we're picking these bulls based off of numbers and data.
So EPDs would be your primary, that would be the thing you would look at when selecting bulls.
Yeah, we still want to take into what that bull looks like into account. But primarily, when we're just looking at the bull catalog, EPD is the number one thing that we're looking towards.
And like you said, that helps predict the genetic potential?
Yeah, exactly. So there's usually a few different things that are in the bull catalog. Birth weight, weaning weights, yearling weights, calving ease, milk is often in there, sometimes scrotal circumference. And those are things that we're going to be able to use as producers that we can pick out that align with our farm goals to make sure that that bull is going to optimize our production in our farm.
So when you're looking through the catalog, does phenotype still matter? Why should we be looking beyond just the EPDs?
Yeah, phenotype definitely still matters. EPDs are such a good prediction, but you still have to look at them like a weather forecast. So while the weather is predicting that things are going to be nice and warm and balmy for the next couple weeks, typical Alberta weather that can throw a curveball in and we can get some dump of snow or bad storm. EPDs are very similar to that. So they're going to give us a prediction, but that prediction is not always guaranteed or 100%. So phenotype is still super important because we want to make sure that that bull is going to be able to have a big enough frame to mount our cows, isn't going to be too large that maybe we have a more moderately framed herd that could hurt our cows. Assessing proper structure, conformation, overall health, body condition score, feet. These are all things that you're going to want to make sure that you still look at because they're things that EPDs aren't necessarily going to be able to tell us.
Absolutely. And I don't know if this is a off question or not, but do you ever, I'm scrolling my Facebook, my Instagram feeds, and you assume that most pictures you're seeing have been edited to some sort.
Mm-hmm.
Is this something you take in consideration when going through a bull catalog as well? Absolutely. So when we're looking at average mature weight of cattle, how has it changed over the last 50 years? Or is it different than it was 50 years ago?
We've really put pressure on increased size because we want those larger weaning weights. We want those larger yearling weights. So mature weight the data shows that it's increased around 150 pounds over the last 50 years because we've put such heavy pressure on selection for growth and milk production. And again, kind of what I talked about earlier is this larger mature cow size and weight is most likely going to lead to higher feed costs. So when you're balancing that with the weaning weight of your calves, is that balancing out on the balance sheet? Is it really making sense economically?
And of course, you're going to pay attention to breeds. And I'm not here to say one breed is better than the other, but how do different breeds vary in their growth and mature weights?
So they definitely, I'm sure that any producer can understand that or just see that different breeds look very different. Typically, if we talk about the main breeds that we see or the ones that are a little bit more popular in the industry, Angus are going to be earlier maturing. There's been more of a focus on a moderate size. Demetal, on the other hand, are generally larger framed. With this larger frame, they're later maturing. And Hereford is kind of a moderate size, moderate maturing. So each breed has different growth patterns, and with those growth patterns are going to lead to different ages of maturity, since we see typically like a puberty hit an animal once they're 60% of their mature body weight. That frame size can definitely affect when they actually mature.
So, are there any misconceptions when, like, you're looking at frame size or you're looking at any of these physical traits you can see with your eyes? Are there any common misconceptions about maximizing these traits in cattle breeding?
Oh, there definitely is. I'd say that the biggest one that we see the most is that bigger is always better. And that's definitely not the case. So just because a bull has the biggest scrotal size, that doesn't mean that he's going to be the most fertile bull. Or because the cow has the largest frame and you're looking to retain heifers in your herd, that probably isn't going to be the most effective EPD to focus on. Along with that, I think that there's been a focus on that maximizing individual traits leads to higher profitability. And this is not the case. So, for example, if your only focus is on weaning weights, which is going to be great when you get paid at the end, we're going to lose in other departments. So you might end up losing things like fertility, increased feed costs, longevity, things like that. So overall, it really shows that we have to have a balanced repertoire of EPDs when we're looking at a bull. I think the other one that we hear often is that when you're picking a bull, they need to have a perfect score in all traits. And that's definitely not true. For the most part, you're not going to be able to ever get a bull that's both maternal and terminal. They're going to excel in one of those departments. So when farmers go to pick a bull, you need to focus on, what are your goals? Are you looking for a terminal sire? Are you looking for a maternal sire? And then focus on those. Don't try to find something that's perfect across the board.
And do breed associations play a role here?
Yeah, definitely they do. So breed associations have been great for collecting this data. They are amazing because they provide the full EPDs and the genetic trend reports on their website. So this allows producers to see what's beyond the bull sale catalog. Like I talked about earlier, that bull sale catalogs will just often promote a few of the EPDs. Producers can go online and see the whole full set of EPDs, so that if they're looking for different traits that align better with their herd, they can see maybe where this bull really excels or potentially falls apart.
Have you seen any real success stories when it comes to, optimization that has improved profitability as well as sustainability, that kind of, like you said, hits all those marks, but maybe doesn't focus on the biggest, best bull out there?
Yeah, Kara, so there's so many success stories. Once people can understand how to use these numbers, I think that any amount of knowledge in being able to achieve your goal is a success story. I don't think I have a very particular story that's exciting to tell you, but I'd say overall the biggest success that I see is that herds that are able to pick out their cows that they know they want to retain females from, and they can pick out their cows that they know are maybe a little bit more suited for those high weaning weights that they want to sell their calves, and separating them out and using bulls that align with what their long-term goal is. So picking maternal bulls for those cows they want to retain heifers in, and picking terminal sires for those cows that they know they're going to ship those calves off at weaning or yearling weights, or even if they keep them all the way and sell them straight to the slaughterhouse.
Absolutely. Okay, so I want to shift gears a little bit here and focus on milk production and its implications. You talked a bit about how we, sometimes if we look at heavier weaning weights or lighter weaning weights, it impacts milk production. Do you want to kind of talk about how that selection has changed over the years?
Yeah, so as we've focused on a bigger weaning weight, we've also increased milk EPDs along with that. So, or I guess milk production along with that. And the reason for this is because a milk EPD is a little bit confusing as how it's defined, but it's defined as the additional pounds of weaning weight a bull's daughters will contribute to their calves through milk production. So you can see how as weaning weight increases, this probably means that milk production is going to increase to be able to give that calf the extra pounds that it needs for weaning. The problem with this is, as we've seen milk production increase, it can be really hard on that cow because she's producing more milk. She needs more energy. So increased milk production leads to increased feed requirements and increased feed costs. Along with that, because the body is more metabolically active producing milk and its focus is on producing milk, we see it really drop off or have some potential for fertility issues. The body is so focused on that milk production that it kind of puts cycling on the back burner. And so we can see some of these really high producing milk cows or high milk EPD cows have issues getting rebred when they're lactating.
And what about, like you mentioned, that it can really take a toll on the cow too. What about when they're in really rugged environments? They're in extreme temperatures or extreme situations. Should you avoid excessive milk production there too?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's such a balance for this. And I mean, I wish I had a really simple answer for everything, but everything's give take. So when a cow is put in a more rugged environment, which cows have to be able to should be able to survive in a rugged environment. If they don't have the energy requirements in that environment, their body is still designed to focus on milk production. So they're really going to deplete their resources, and that's going to make it even harder for them to get pregnant in the future. If the resources are really, really slim, then you're going to also see her decrease in milk production. And that's going to eventually correlate to a decreased overall weaning weights in your crop of calves. So now you have a cow with higher milk production that's not able to maintain her resources. At the end of her lactating period, you have a skinny cow and a below average calf crop. And I know for sure that's not something that we want.
No, absolutely. And now, I don't want to get too sidetracked here, but are there comparisons in the dairy industry when we look at milk production in beef cattle? And are there any lessons we can learn from that?
Yeah. Oh, man. There definitely is. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love the dairy industry. But I think that when it comes to some of the genetic problems that we've seen, we can definitely extrapolate information from over there. So as we know, dairy cows have exceptional milk production, and it really shows that if you maximize one trait, you're going to lose in others. So whether that's fertility, mammary support, feed efficiency, if we focus on milk or one trait, there's other things that are going to kind of fall off the cliff. So I'm sure lots of us know that the dairy industry's conception rates aren't perfect. So they've definitely increased over the last couple of years as they've put a less of an emphasis on milk production as being their only primary. But it's still not unheard of AI conception rates to be sitting around 40 to 50%. And that's because they're putting such a metabolic demand for milk that the body is tired and just can't put that emphasis on fertility.
So in the long term, how do you make that balance? I guess, like you said, there's no direct answer there, but how do you choose, okay, do I want really high fertility? Do I want really high milk production? Where do I do that give and take?
Yeah. Tough. I think that focusing on moderation is probably going to be key. So not focusing on a maximization of any particular trait, but finding the bulls that are a moderate number across the board. So like I kind of mentioned, you're not going to find a bull that maximizes everything, but finding something that's pretty good or average across the board is something that you're going to be really happy with, because whether those cows are put in really tough conditions or maybe we have a really great year and have lots of feed, they're going to be able to thrive no matter what. With that, it still also really depends on your goals. So if you are always selling all of your calves at weaning, still putting a little bit more emphasis on that weaning weight is going to be okay. But looking towards that milk production just to make sure it's still in a moderate range. If you're keeping things till yearlings, then obviously you're going to want to look a little bit more at that yearling weight. And if you're only retaining females, then you're going to look at those traits a little bit more. But I think moral of the story is that comes back to that optimization versus maximization. So finding a bull that's balanced across all the numbers and not just focusing on one of those traits.
And really deciding, like you said, what you as an operation are looking for and what your goals are.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's where it gets really confusing, is if you don't have a goal, it's going to be really difficult to find a bull that meets your needs. But if you have a goal and can pick out a bull that matches that, it's going to be much better in the long run.
So, of course, we have to talk about it. Scrotal circumference. It's an important trait to consider. Like you said, sometimes we pay too much attention to it, but do you want to talk about why it is important to look at the scrotal circumference as well?
Yeah, so scrotal circumference is very highly heritable. So it's easy to see this trait influence through selection. The other really good thing about larger scrotal circumference is it is correlated with higher fertility. So typically we do see bulls that are a larger size. They're able to service more cows. This does kind of have a maximum point, and I don't know what that number exactly is, but as long as they're above average, they have the ability to service the number of cows that you need. The other thing with that is it also correlates, larger scrotal size also correlates to earlier puberty in offspring. So that's also going to translate into your female herd. So you will see your heifers cycling a little bit sooner than what you would see with a bull that has a smaller scrotal size.
Body condition score, how can it be used as a proxy for scrotal fat and overall bull health?
So the scrotum likes to keep fat in it. So it is, when a bull is overconditioned, you will see scrotal size increase. The problem with this is that the fat in the scrotum actually acts as an insulator, and that can damage sperm quality. So the reason the testicles are on the outside of the body is so that they stay cooler, because they can't be the exact body temperature that protects the sperm. But if we shove a bunch of extra fat in there, that can actually damage the sperm, so it can decrease fertility. When we're looking at bulls, we want them to be a body condition score of about 3 to 3.5 out of 5 at their breeding soundness evaluation. And that's going to tell us that there probably isn't a lot of scrotal fat in that scrotum, and that their scrotal circumference is truly the size that it's measured to be. Because what we can see is overconditioned bulls, so maybe bulls that are a 5 out of 5, they got a lot of extra feed, then someone buys them, they go out into pasture, they lose a bunch of weight, and a common complaint is that their scrotal size has decreased. And it's not that the actual testicles have decreased in size, it's just that they've lost that fat that was artificially inflating their scrotal circumference.
So how do you differentiate between that? How do you look at the scrotal size and go, okay, yeah, this is true genetic potential, or this is the true potential of it, versus this is obviously artificially inflated?
So looking at their body condition score. So there's lots of different templates online where it shows you how to evaluate a body condition score, what to look for. So when you're out there selecting a bull, see if you think that he's a 5 out of 5 versus a 3 out of 5. Because 5 out of 5 bulls are going to have larger scrotal circumference scores just based off of fat alone. The other thing that you can look towards is their breeding soundness evaluation. So veterinarians, when they examine the bulls, they'll have a body condition score on there. And then finally, I think the other thing to ask or question about would be ask the seller what the conditions were like the bull was raised in. If he was raised on a higher forage diet, then yeah, it's probably more likely to be true genetic potential. But if he was raised in a feedlot on a high energy diet, then that could definitely be an artificially inflated measurement.
And you mentioned veterinarians giving scores as well. How can they, can you call up a veterinarian and say, hey, I would like an evaluation on this bull?
Yeah, that's like most of our springtime calls is we're semen testing a lot of bulls. So things that we look for when we're semen testing, we're making sure that bull is sound, that there's no abnormalities in feet, legs, that he's a good body condition score. We're able to palpate the testicles or feel them to see if there's any sort of a change in size between the two testicles, change in firmness between them. We're able to evaluate their sex glands to make sure that there's no signs of infection. And then we're able to actually look at that bull's semen and sperm to make sure that there is an adequate amount, they're moving correctly, and that there's not abnormalities in that sperm that's going to make it difficult for the sperm to penetrate the egg.
So do you typically recommend palpating testicles and resting bulls before you get into breeding season?
Yeah, absolutely. So palpating testicles can give us a lot of information. Not only palpating them to see if there's been some shrinkage of one testicle or change in texture, which could give us some indication, is there an infection or was there trauma? But then also measuring the scrotal circumference to see if there's been change in size. Changes in size can also tell us that there probably was some trauma or infection at some point, or some still going on. With a breeding soundness exam and palpating the testicles, it's going to help us identify sperm quality issues that can arise at any time in a bull's life. What we have to remember, though, is that when a bull ejaculates, that sperm was made 60 days ago. So even though he looks just fine now to send out, did he have something happen 60 days ago that isn't going to actually make him fine to breed cows?
Yeah, very good point. Looking back and not just looking what's right in front of you.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
So do you have any examples of when, over conditioning has maybe negatively impacted bull performance? Or I guess longevity too, it's great for a year, but maybe not for 5.
Yeah, over conditioning is definitely has an effect on long-term performance. So like we mentioned, it's going to reduce the semen quality because of the excess scrotal fat. So increasing that temperature, providing extra insulation can damage the sperm. I also find that over-conditioned bulls are a little bit lazy. So we can see that some of them, not all, don't get me wrong, not all of them, but some of them can have a decreased libido. They'll get up and breed one cow, then they're tired and they'll go lay down, and then maybe they'll go sniff another one, but they want to go back to the feed bunk. So you want something that's really going to be able to service your herd. They're also going to have an increased risk of metabolic diseases. So something like laminitis, because they're over-conditioned, there's more potential for that, as well as because they're heavier, they could have a higher chance of injury because there's so much more pressure on those joints. So we really don't want to see partway through our breeding season our bull not be able to do what he was bought to do because he was just too fat to start with. The only one really positive about being over-conditioned is that good condition pre-winter, they're going to retain energy reserves better for breeding. So maybe once you pull them out from the breeding herd, getting them a little bit of extra condition for winter is just fine. But then we really want them in tip-top perfect body condition score to head into that breeding season.
We all needed a little extra weight on us to get us through the winter.
Yeah, we need that extra warmth and insulation.
That's what I tell myself anyways.
Yeah, same.
So is there any advice you would give to, ranchers? They're out and about and they're perusing these bulls on sale day and they want to ensure they make informed decisions.
Yeah.
What should they be keeping in the back of their mind? I mean, there's obviously all these things we said, but is there anything else you would kind of like to add there?
I mean, there's so many things to keep in mind. I think that be prepared. I think that that's what I can send away with them. Have a goal before you're going to that sale. Know what you're trying to optimize in your herd and what you're looking for. Second would be go through that bull catalog, watch those videos online, investigate and explore through the breed association website. See if you can get more information than just what's in the catalog. And 3, when you're there, ask questions. Find out what those bulls were fed. Find out how they were the conditions they were raised in. Find out as much information as you can have, just because that's going to help you make a more informed decision. And if you need to, don't be afraid to reach out to other professionals in the industry. I know that at our vet clinic, at Veterinary Agri Health Services, we do help a lot of our clients sift through bull catalogs to help them just understand what they should be looking for based on their goals.
Absolutely. Okay, that is terrific advice. Can producers get a hold of VHS too if they're looking for more information here, or can they get a hold of you personally?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're based out of Crossfield, Alberta, but we do work kind of all over Western Canada. We're online. You can find us on our website at www.eahs.net or give us a call, 403-948-2253. We're more than happy to help if you need it.
Great. Okay. Well, thank you very much for your time today, Carling. I look forward to talking more with you on the show as we progress through the season.
Yeah, this was great. I love talking about what I love. So
awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone, for tuning into another episode of The Bovine. I hope you found my discussion with Carling as insightful as I did. I know I certainly learned something today, and I hope you did as well. As we navigate the challenges and opportunities of rebuilding herds and selecting the right herd bulls, it's clear that informed decisions can make a significant impact on our operations. And like Carling said, by golly, have a plan for your operation because it makes selecting so much easier. Remember, optimization over maximization. Understand the role of milk production and evaluating overall bull health are key factors in achieving a balanced and productive herd. Stay tuned for our next episode where we'll continue to bring you valuable tips, strategies, and expert advice to help you thrive in the world of cattle. Stay tuned to ABP Daily and your favorite podcast apps for more. Are you facing certain struggles on your operation right now that you'd like to hear an expert speak on? Get in touch on social by tagging Alberta beef producers and using the hashtag ABPs the Bovine. And if you don't do social media, which, hey, some days I can hardly blame you, you can personally catch me on my email, kara.m@albertabeef.org. Until next time, stay safe and stay warm, everyone. And just remember, in 4 months, it's going to be ridiculously hot again. Okay, bye for now.